Hi guys, and welcome to my second video on YouTube. I'm really excited to have you here. Thanks for joining me, and Happy New Year. You know, what a year that we've had. It's been pretty crazy. There's lots of ups and downs. In this video I'm going to go through 5 things you must know before you start investing in the Australian real estate in 2021. You know, with the crazy year that we've had, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm also going to cover off a few tips and things like that, that no matter how 2021 goes, whether we get a vaccine, whether travel restrictions ease or not, what you can do personally to help you go through this year. And no matter what happens that's outside of your control, you'll have a great year ahead. So stick around to the end of this video for that. Alrighty, so 5 things you must know. Number 1. Your borrowing capacity. Do you know how much you can borrow to purchase a property? You know, there's various different ways on working out what your borrowing capacity is. Borrowing capacity is basically how much money a bank or a lender is able to let you borrow to be able to purchase an investment property in Australia. Your borrowing capacity can be calculated online using various different tools. I think most banks these days online have their own website which actually has a borrowing capacity or borrowing calculator. You could use that as a guide, but those numbers aren't, those numbers don't really give you the exact borrowing capacity. It's generally, you know, an estimate. And to get a true borrowing capacity, you have to plug in all your income and expenses and things like that. Generally, you would have to go visit that bank to be able to get that figure, the borrowing capacity. Or what I would suggest is you engage with a mortgage broker. So a mortgage broker has access to numerous banks, and they're able to sort of look at each bank and work out what your borrowing capacity would be. You know, every bank has their own calculator. So for example, the big 4 banks, I think, you know, if you're living at home, for example, they actually include in a dollar amount that's specific regardless you're paying any rent or not. You know, whereas a third tier lender wouldn't care because they already know you're not paying any rent. You're living with your parents, for example, and they would include that as part of the calculation, and that would actually yield you a higher borrowing capacity. So know your borrowing capacity before you start investing. Alrighty, so number 2, know your deposit. So how much deposit do I really need to buy a property? You know, deposit isn't necessarily what you have in savings. So if you have around $40,000 in savings, it doesn't actually mean that that is going to be your deposit to purchase a property. Yes, you can get into real estate with as little as $40,000, but you have to have some money aside for your emergency fund. Maybe you have some ad hoc expenses that sort of come up during the year that you need to have some savings in place. So ideally you may need to have $50,000 before you start putting $40,000 into real estate. And the other thing around deposit is the deposit isn't necessarily the 10% that you're going to be paying against the loan, or the 20% deposit for the property. It also includes costs such as like your stamp duty, any legal fees, building and pest inspection, any bank fees, or, you know, yearly bank charges and things like that, cleaning costs, a lot of different things that make up that deposit. So it's not simply, if it's a property for 500,000, I'm gonna put 100,000 in, it's leverage 80%, and you'll deposit 100,000. So you'll need actually a little bit more than that. Alrighty, so the third thing I would say is know your yield. So how much yield are you looking for before investing? So are you looking for a 3% yield, 4% yield, 5% yield? To put it in simple terms, yield is the rental income on the property purchase price that you receive. So, you know, on a $500,000 property, don't really have a calculator here, but say 5%, I think that's about 26,000. You know, so that's, you know, what yield, you need to know what yield are you looking for. Generally speaking, somewhere between 5 and 6% is where you're going to land in the positive cash flow side. Depending on your investment strategy, maybe you're looking for something negatively geared. There's different ways of doing that, by buying new, by a low yield, something less than 4%. Ideally, the higher the better, because basically you're getting more income from your property. So you need to know, based on your strategy, what your yield is. What yield are you chasing? So sorry, I've put in a lot of information here at the moment. I can break this up and deep dive into it. So if you're liking this content, do give me a like down below. It really helps out. Alrighty, the fourth thing that you want to know is your risk appetite. So how risky of an investor are you? Are you going to only invest in capital cities where, broadly speaking, when a market goes down, Australia-wide, it's generally the regional areas that are harder hit than a capital city? Or depending on your investment strategy and your risk appetite, you might be investing in regional areas. Maybe you're 2 properties in and you're thinking, I can go into some riskier areas that are going to go up very quickly in the future. But at the same time, they could be the ones that would take a harder hit. So maybe not for your first property. Maybe you would do it for your first property. You need to know your risk appetite. It's very important. The fifth thing is probably the most important out of all these 4, is your investment strategy. So before you start investing at all, or even if you're a property in, you still need to implement an investment strategy. Now there's professionals out there that can help you build one. You can build one yourself. It's not very complicated. It's basically your investment strategy. So a lot of answers that help building one come from you. So what do you want to achieve in the next 10 to 15 years is what you should be asking yourself. So why do you want to invest in property? What do you want to get out of it in the next 10, 15 years? Do you want to have 1 property paid off? Do you want to have 2 properties paid off? Do you want 10 properties and having a passive income coming through? It all comes down to you. Do you want to work part-time in 10 years instead of still, working? Or do you want to be able to spend more time with your kids in the future? So in the next 10 to 15 years, you want to have that downtime. It could be something like your investment strategy might allow you to pursue something that it doesn't matter what you get paid. You can sort of do it, so you follow your passion. You don't have to stick to a job just to hold up your property portfolio, for example. So it really comes down to what you want to get out of investing in property. So you must have an investment strategy in place before you start investing. So if out of all of these, if you can't figure something out, or you need further guidance, drop me a comment below and I can do a deeper dive into any of these in future videos. Alrighty, so the next thing I want to touch on is things that you can implement in 2021 that no matter how the year goes, no matter what happens, you're still going to have a great year ahead. So number 1, I would say, is take ownership of your actions. So whatever you get up to, whatever you do this year, whatever you pursue, make sure it's something that you really want to do. Take ownership of what decisions, what choices that you make, because at the end of the year, you're going to have no regrets on what you've done, because basically you've sort of done what you wanted to do at the time. And it's okay, you might have done something wrong, something you look back and I wish I didn't probably do that. You learn from your failures, but you need to know that you took every choice that you made, as an ownership. You owned every choice that you made, is what I'm trying to get to here. The second thing is to change your habits, build some good habits that would support your growth in 2020. That could be as simple as waking up at 5:30 every morning and keeping that consistent. That could be cutting down on coffees. Instead of having 3 coffees a day, you're cutting down to 2 and slowly back to 1, maybe even 0 for a month. Trying different things, building different habits, having cold showers, maybe meditating, reading more books, going for walks, things like that. Change your habits a little bit. Maybe you don't eat out as much. There's 1,000 things probably you can think of, another 10,000 things. So yeah, build some good habits, and that's gonna lay a really nice path in front of you for the next 12 months ahead. The third thing would be to look after your mental health and also your happiness, because these things are very important. You know, if you're not mentally there, then, and you're physically not there, then, you know, it's very hard to sort of keep pushing and getting to where you want to be when you're not happy with your inner soul. So, you know, make your health and your happiness a priority in 2021. Do what you got to do that, whether it's eating healthy, whether it's working out, whether it's meditating, doing yoga, whatever it is, prioritize that. So, you know, set some time around that. Maybe make it non-negotiable, like you have to do that before you do anything else. Maybe you're reading more books. It could be anything. And the fourth thing would be to learn to say no and setting boundaries. So there's it's very easy to say yes to everything. Yes, I will do that. Yes, John, I'll meet you on Saturday, we'll go out to dinner, because on Tuesday you were having a bad day at work, but when it comes to Saturday, you've already planned your day, and, you know, you have to commit it to John, and you have to go with him. So, you know, set some boundaries, have some more discipline, set your calendar out, maybe be very strategic about what you do, and be conscious of what you say yes to, and say no more often. Can you do this? No, I can't. It doesn't align with my goals, mate. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm not interested in this. Can you have this call with me? You know, it could be anything. So these are very high level. Sorry, I'm giving terrible examples, but it's just coming up with the top of my head. There's no script for this video. The fifth thing I would say is surround yourself with positive people. Now, 2020 has been a mentally draining year. There's a lot of uncertainty, and when you go out with your friends, when you talk to people on the phone, when you have your video chats, you want to be speaking to people that give you positive rays. So your true friends. Don't hang around with the negative Nelly, you know, they say. Always a downer. Oh, I hate my job. Oh, everything's going downhill. You know, spend time with people that are looking to actually achieve something this year, that are looking to build growth. They want to personally develop themselves. Spend more time with them. Have some, you know, intellectual, educated conversations. And yeah, that's really gonna, you're gonna come out brighter at the end of the year. You're gonna be thankful for all the positive people that are around you, and just get rid of all the negativity. Alrighty, so I think that wraps up my video here today. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked some of the content that I've shared today, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Cheers.